All right, this is going to continue the wow factor here. For those of you that might be at home or just need to rewatch this again, weren't here, whatever it is, here we go. I'm going to go back and talk about number 4. Number 4, if we look at number 4, we knew the first term and we knew the last term. What we didn't know was this b value, and this b value comes from here. So how do we determine what makes up that b value? Well, in your steps, if you go back, we multiply a times c. So 5 times 3, and we get 15, right? So that's where I'm going to draw the big 15. 15, list your factors. 1 and 15, 3 and 5, 4, no 5, no 6, no 7, right? These numbers add to give me b, but what is b? I still don't know what b is. If they listed one of the factors, it'd probably help me out, because how do I get 5x squared? That's 5x, and x gives me 5x squared, right? How do I get 3? Well, I know that 1 times 3 is equal to 3. So these factors are probably 1 and 3. But is it 1 and 3, or is it 3 and 1? Which one goes where? That's what I don't know. So how I determine that is by adding these together. 1 plus 15 equals 16. Well, how else can I add 1 and 15? Minus 1 plus 15, which gives me 14. 1 minus 15, which gives me negative 14. Or I could do minus 1 minus 15, which gives me negative 16. Okay, how about 3 and 5? 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. Minus 3 minus 5 equals negative 8. Minus 3 plus 5 gives me positive 2. Or 3 minus 5 gives me negative 2. There are 8 different ways that you can take these factors, and that's just 2 sets, and get this middle combination right here. So what is it and where? Well, that depends on which values add to give you that middle term. You have to know, in this case, you have to know one of these factors. If I go back and look in the book prior, the book, which I think it's a typo here, the book prior tells me that one of these factors is x plus 1. So if that's the case, then the 1 goes down here. This up here has to be the 3, because that's what's going to make sense. The point of this whole story is going back to show you how many possible ways can I add up. It's much easier if you list your factors to see how things add up. That's the point. So now when we look at question 5, all right? How about 5? How do I complete this using this? And I'm going to show you a couple of different methods. The first thing to do is use your magic x, if you will, and multiply 2 times 3 and get 6. I write the 2 and 3 because I want to know where 6 comes from. Where does 6 come from? I know, but you're learning. And if you just put 6 down there, you don't see a 6 up here. Where is it coming from? You might not know. You might not remember. My factors of 6, luckily for me, are 1 and 6. 2, yes. 3, yes, listed. 4, no. 5, no. 6, yes, listed. So now I know that I have to take a combination of these, which there's 2 sets, so 8 possible, and I've got to put them in here so that they add up to give me 7. Well, the only factors that give me 7 are 6x and x. But did I get that right? Well, go back and look. What has to take place here? I have to have a 2x and an x to get me 2x squared. 2x times what gives me 6? That would be 3. X times what gives me 1x? That would be 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 2x times 3x gives me 6x. So my factors are actually 2x plus 1 and x plus 3. Now, how do I know that? There's got to be another way I can do this. Yes, there is another way you can do this. It's called factor by grouping, because the box is kind of messed up. What if I put x down here and 6 up here? Well, then you just flip-flop them. Yeah, that's right. You just flip-flop them. But what if I told you there's a way to do it where I don't have to worry about screwing that up? Well, here it is. You do the same thing as using the box. Factor by grouping is the same thing as using the box. We still multiply a times c. We still list our factors. Which factors add to give me my middle term? Those are the factors you use to stretch your problem apart, just like we did in the previous section. So plus x plus 6x plus 3. Now here it doesn't matter where I put the x. I could put 6x first plus x or x plus 6. It doesn't matter. What I do next is pretty simple. This is part 3b of the 4 steps that I showed you the other day in the previous section, which I will have you write down. The next thing is group and take out the GCF. So we're going to group into 2 terms, and we're going to divide out the greatest common factor. So here the greatest common factor happens to be x, not 2x, sorry. The greatest common factor happens to be x. Over here, the greatest common factor happens to be 3. So what does that look like when we take out an x and a positive 3? Factor it out. What do you get? You get 2x plus 1, because 2x squared divided by x is 2x. X divided by x is 1. And what about over here? 6 divided by 3 is 2. There is no variable in common, so 2x plus 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now what you'll notice is these 2 sets of parentheses are the same. And they should always be. If they're not, then you haven't factored correctly. If they are, you factored correctly and you found your 2 sets of factors. X plus 3, 2x plus 1. Here you go. Notice they are the same, they are the same as what I have right here. All right, let's try number 6. Okay, we still do the x. We still multiply 2 times 15 and we get 30. We list our factors of 30, which end up being 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. That doesn't change. I'm going to show you the box, okay? Because I'm going to show you both methods. So I listed my factors. Which ones give me negative 13? Well, gee, 2 and negative 15 will give me negative 13, but negative 3 and negative 10 will also give me negative 13. All right, well, I'll show you what's wrong with picking one of these sets of factors in a second. Let's go ahead and put our 2x in the front, 2x squared. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to get 2x, and I'm going to get x, right? And I've got to put my positive 15 down here. I need a negative 13. Which of these factors are going to give me a negative 13? And you might pick, and I know I just spent time in my 5th period class going over this, we always picked negative 3 and 10. Nobody ever picked 2 and negative 13, but think about it. 2 minus 15 equals negative 13, right? That works. That works. So, hey, I know my factors are 2 and negative 15, right? But what happens when you multiply a negative times a positive? You get a negative, right? What's the last value? The last value is positive. The only way I get a plus 15 is both of these are the same sign, whether they're positive or negative. Are both 2 and negative 15 the same sign? No. So I need a negative 3 and a negative 10. I got to go back and explain that to my other classes. So I'm going to get a negative 10x and a negative 3x. That's what I'm going to get. That's horrible. You can't even read that. Let me fix that so you can read it. Minus 3x. That's what you're going to get. Well, these two are possible to change. They're possible to flip. So I want to make sure I get this right. If you don't get it right, this 2x will not multiply by something to give you this value. In this case, 2 times something is negative 10. Well, gee, that's negative 5. So that works. X times something is negative 3. That's minus 3. There, I factored it correctly. How do I check that? I'm going to check that by factor by grouping. Well, all of my stuff right here is what I need to have. Those are the factors I picked. So I just write it out, 2x squared minus 10x minus 3x. Again, for this method, it doesn't matter how you put these. You can flip-flop these. Plus 15. It doesn't matter. Again, it does over here, doesn't over here. So what's next? What's next is factor by group. Make sure you include the negative sign here. That'll throw you off. Okay? Remember, you always look at the sign in front of the number. And then divide out the greatest common factor. So what is the greatest common factor out of negative 2x squared minus 10? It should be 2 and x, right? That should be the greatest. 2 will go into 2 and 2 will go into 10. Right? So let's do that one first. So 2x, okay? Because that's a lot. What's left? Well, 2x squared divided by 2x is x. 10 divided by 2 is 5, but a negative divided by a positive is negative. So x minus 5. So why did I do just one at a time? Well, I did just one at a time because over here, I've got to have x minus 5. So what do I divide here a negative by to get a positive x, right? I got to have a positive x here. The only way to figure that out is divide by a negative. So negative 3 divided by negative 3. So that's what I'm taking out. So I got to take out the negative. I get x positive, which is what I want. Positive divided by negative is negative. 15 divided by 3 is 5. I end up with my two sets of factors. These two parentheses are the same. 2x minus 3, which is what I want, and x minus 5, which is what I want. That's what I said over here, x minus 5. All right? We'll look again at 7. For the video, I'm just gonna kind of move ahead here, but we did 7 in class. All right? So number 10, how's it gonna help us? How are we gonna write factored form in number 10? Well, gee, if I'm gonna use this a of x's area, here's your factors. So this is pretty simple. This is 2x plus 1, and this is 2x plus 3. How are you going to write it in standard form? Well, standard form, find the areas and add them together. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. So 4x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. 2x times 3 is 6x. 1 times 3 is 3. And what do I do with these two? Add them together. So you get 4x squared plus 8x plus 3. Pretty crazy how you see a is greater than 1 and you think, hey, that last value there, it's less than a. Hey, it happens. It can happen. We see this right here. And all it's asking for is factored form and standard form. We could factor by grouping to verify that that's correct. But if we factor by grouping, all we're going to do is end up with those factors, and that's what they want us to verify, that those factors are right. So how about 11? Okay, Anushka was partially completed this diagram for you. The area of the block is here. So 6x squared plus 7x plus 2. Notice she did part of it for you. Very good. How else could this have happened? How else do I get 6x? I could have put 6x up here, and I could have put x over here. That's another possibility when using the box method. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I don't like it. I like to use factor by grouping, because when you do, you have 6x squared plus a couple of other things plus 2. What are these other things here? Well, that depends. How do we do that? You figure them out because you know they add to be 7. Okay, so how do I figure that out? Well, gee, 2 times 6 is 12. I find my factors of 12. And here we're going to have 12 possibilities. 12 possibilities to get to 7. I have a positive 7, so 3 and 4. So 3x and 4x. Did I put those in the right spot? Well, 3x times what is 3x? 3x times 1. 2x times what is 4x? That's 2. There's your factors. Well, let's prove it. Let's use 3x and 4x. So 3x plus 4x, and see if factor by grouping leads to the same set of factors. All right? Let's see if it leads to, and I'll just go ahead and put, I wrote that there. I should have put it down here. I'll just write my factors up here. 3x plus 2 and 2x plus 1. And there you go. So we're going to group, and we're going to take out the GCF. What's the greatest common factor? Here, the greatest common factor is 3x. Over here, the greatest common factor is 2. Pause and take a second to think about that if you need to. So take out a 3x, and what are you left with? 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared divided by, left with an x. 3x divided by 3x is 1. Factor out a 2 over here. That's a plus 2. So what's left? I should be left with 2x plus 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so 2x plus 1. I factored it correctly. 3x plus 2 and 2x plus 1. All right, so that's how you're doing that. If you need to pause and go back, pause and go back. All right? We finished up with this one in class today. 10x squared plus 17 plus 3. So regardless of what you use, box or not, I'll draw this a little bit bigger. Sorry. All right? I'm going to draw this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Not much bigger, but it is a little bigger. What goes in this upper hand corner? 10x squared. What goes in the bottom? 3. All right, well, regardless of using the box or factor by grouping, I've got to list my factors. 10 times 3 is 30. List my factors. 1 and 30, and we already did it before. 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6, right? 5 and 6. 6 is yes, already listed. 7, no, 8, no, 9, 10, yes, listed. Right? What goes in these boxes? Well, I want 17. The only way to get 17 is positive 15, positive 2. So, how did I do this? Did I do this correctly? Well, remember, how do I get 10x? I can get it two ways. 10 times 1 is 10, or 2x times 5x. Did I do that right? Well, again, remember, you can flip these two around. So, 2 times what is 15? Nothing. 2 times nothing is 15. So, swap the 15 and the 2. This is where you have a little bit of trial and error here. So 2 and 15. Well, what do you get? 2x times what? 2x times x is 2x. 5x times what is 15x? That's 3. Both of my signs are positive, so both of these should be positive. So there should be my factors. 2x plus 3 and 5x plus 10. 5x plus 2, sorry, that should be a 2. 2x times what is, no, it should be a 1. It should be a 1. Okay? So, let's factor by grouping. You're going, oh man, we got to do all this other work. No, you already have most of the work done. Here's all your factors. Here's your problem that you're using to pull it apart. 10x squared plus 15x plus 2x plus 3. There's your problem. Already almost basically saying, hey, I am here, write me out as a polynomial. Then you group and you take out the greatest common factor. So what's the greatest common factor of the first two terms? I see a 5. 5 will go into 10, 5 will go into 15. I also see an x. So I'm going to take out a 5 and an x. I'll color differentiate here so you can see what's left. 10 divided by 5 is 2. X squared divided by x leaves me with x. 15 divided by 5 is 3. X divided by x is 1. So 2x plus 3. That was one of our factors, right? We already know what they are. We're just confirming that, but we're doing a different method. 2x plus 3. That's what I need to get in the second set of parentheses. It's already 2x plus 3, so I don't have to divide anything out. Ah, but you do. You do. What can I divide 2x plus 3 by to get 2x plus 3? I divide by 1. You must divide something out, always. So 5x plus 1, 2x plus 3. There is your factors. You're verifying that they're the same, right? Factor by grouping. What I don't like about the box is you have to guess a little bit, possibly, unless you get it right the first time. Factor by grouping I like because you don't have to guess. Either method, you still have to list all your factors. So bring your questions, all right? Bring your questions, please.